Is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right. The big government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
My name is S.M. Gibson. This is Anti-Media Radio, and we are live on Tuesday, March the 28th, 2017. And it is more of the same coming out of Washington and around the world. Corporate media outlets pushing the same agenda, the same nonsense. I want to say biased opinions, but it seems more like it's not a biased opinion. It's just misinformation at this point. Corporate media is fond of promoting conspiracy theory now, as we see with, well, I say now, I don't know if that's anything new, especially with the Russian connection that we see every single day shoved down our throats, still with no fact, but tons of fear. We're going to talk about that and more tonight here on Anti-Media Radio. There's a lot of big stories up on the antimedia.org right now, the homepage of independent media. Before we get to all of that, I want to go ahead and bring on co-host for the evening, Mr. Shannon Madden. Shannon, what is up?
Living the dream, Mr. Gibson. How about you?
I cannot complain, sir. Before we get too deep into this, I want to bring up something that happened earlier today. Congress has decided to repeal broadband privacy rules. So basically, that sounds kind of boring. Oh, Congress did something. Broadband, oh, it's a big word. Nobody knows what anything means. We've got this story right now under the Their News section on the front page of the antimedia.org. It is a story from the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF. I want to read just the first couple of paragraphs here. Putting the interest on internet providers over internet users, Congress today voted to ease landmark broadband privacy protections. If the bill is signed into law, companies like Cox, Comcast, Time Warner, AT&T, and Verizon will have free reign to hijack your searches, sell your data, and hammer you with unwanted advertisements. Worse yet, consumers will now have to pay a privacy tax by relying on VPNs to safeguard their information. This is a poor substitute for legal protections. Make no mistake, by a vote of 215 to 205, a slim majority of the House of Representatives have decided to give our personal information to an already highly profitable cable and telephone industry so that they can increase their profits with our data. The vote broke along party lines, with Republicans voting yes, although 15 Republicans broke ranks to vote against the repeal with the Democrats. I do want to apologize that I just said the words Republicans and Democrats, because as we all know, this is not a a right and left thing with anything that the government does.
Yeah, that right there is fake news.
But,
Republicans and Democrats like they're two different things.
Well, right. But let's sit here and talk about feeding the beast even more. Lobbyists have their way again. Companies have their way again. On the consumer, your privacy is gone even more. That's the world that we're living in, and I think one thing that we are going to see with Trump is we're going to see a lot of this. Of course, the big news today was Trump stripping away the environmental protections, and that one's tough because you see government get involved and stuff, and the government doesn't do anything that, they screw everything up they touch. But at the same time, you have these corporations that aren't a whole lot better. And I think that's, corporations are probably I won't say probably, they're a lot of the reason that we see so much of the chaos in Washington and the mismanagement is because of the lobbyists. It's kind of, you're screwed if you do, you're screwed if you don't. Unfortunately, that's where we're at. So, but yeah.
The most important sentence to me and what you just said was, worse yet, consumers will now have to pay a privacy tax by relying on virtual private networks to safeguard their information. I'm dumbfounded when I read something like that, and we allow this kind of thing to happen. We have to pay a tax in order to keep our information online somewhat private. Because let's go ahead and be honest now. We talk about it a lot on this show. Nothing you do online is private anymore.
No. People that think that are kidding themselves. And I know that the Democrats right now are selling this as that, it's really not, of course, but this is obviously a step in the wrong direction of that. But, what do you do?
Privacy tax, though, if you decide to opt out of the government or allowing, these cable companies to sell your information on what you're searching for and so on and so forth, then you have to pay a tax in order to keep your stuff private. That's absolutely ridiculous, number one. And number two, the people that are going to pay that tax, the people that have the virtual private networks, those people are going to be heavily scrutinized by their internet use.
Of course they will.
Now even more so because they're pretty much on a list.
Everybody's on a list at this point. And really, look, clearly, I'm not for this thing, but should we be so shocked? You're taxed if you die in this country. You're literally taxed if you die in this country. Why wouldn't we get taxed for this? They're trying to, now in the state of Alabama here, they want to tax your Netflix or your Hulu or whatever it is, Amazon, whatever people sign up for. They want to tax streaming services. Al Gore literally wants to tax you to breathe. They already taxing you to die. So, of course, why not throw this on there, too? It's just more big government and wasted money.
Now, you can collect rainwater again, but, I'm pretty sure that's terribly long.
Thanks. That's huge.
Well, I mean, if Nestle's going to pay what was it, like $500 to pump millions of gallons of spring water out of the ground, they could give us a couple drops from the sky. Come on now.
But you got to remember, they're making money off of that, and they've got lobbyists. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. There's the whole profit thing. Yeah.
Once you get lobbyists, then you'll be able to get what you want to.
Why can't we get some lobbyists?
Technically, I think Congress is supposed to act as our lobbyists, basically being our representatives. But
oh, come on now, that doesn't work. We need some real lobbyists. We need some of that. We need some of that Walmart money.
Well, it ain't gonna happen. Speaking of people that are actually trying to do something in the right direction, today, House Committee passed a bill to audit the Fed. Now, does that mean that will happen? No, it does not. But it is a step in the right direction. We shall see if this moves forward any further. But that's something that's been needed. It's been a long time coming to audit the Federal Reserve. Will that ever actually happen? I doubt it. Unfortunately, I doubt it. At least it's being discussed. At least they're getting this far with it. I mean, 5 years ago, they couldn't get this far with it. So, and that's another thing. That's a slippery slope, because if they ever were able to audit the Federal Reserve, as much as that has to happen for us to actually start changing stuff, how bad would that look? How bad would that be? We're talking about an organization that has had zero accountability for a long, long, long time. What they found in there would probably not do wonders to the U.S. economy, if I had to guess.
That is and you take a kind of that's a curious direction to look into, because what will this do to the world market as a whole ultimately? That's interesting. I never thought of it like that. I never thought of it like that before.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and that's why I just kind of make jokes about everything that's going on, Shannon, because we're screwed. People live in this fantasy world that we're not, but even if the good stuff happens, bad stuff's going to happen. We're down such a hole at this point. I don't see us coming out of it, so you might as well enjoy it. It is WrestleMania week after all, so that's what we're living in day after day. This is it. Speaking of complete craziness, Democrats, the left, the liberals, fans of Dick Cheney now.
What?
Because Dick Cheney has come out and said that he considers Russia hacking the 2016 election, which, by the way, he considers that happened, is an act of war. Of course he does. Why wouldn't he?
Of course he does.
He feels that when people sneeze, it's an act of war. But because it's Russia and he's jumping on the Russian hacking bandwagon, then yeah, that's great. Yeah, just come on board. We're friends now. And that's how they're treating him, which is an absolute joke. I wonder if Dick Cheney feels that the 81 times that the U.S. has intervened in other people's elections, and we're not talking military or any of that. We're just talking 81 times that they've interjected themselves into other elections. Was that an act of war by the U.S.? I doubt he would consider that.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope you're going down there, and it's really complicated. You're probably better off just leaving that to the professionals like Dick Cheney.
Because Dick Cheney's never been wrong, has he?
No. I mean, they were misled that one time. It's complete misled, but they've got things on the right track now.
But of course, he feels that this.
Dick Cheney's still alive.
Oh,
how is he still alive?
Darth Vader. Darth Vader.
Yeah, what kind of technology do they give him that he's going to live? I mean, seriously, he's going to look exactly the same in like 30 years. He's still going to be alive.
They hook you up to stuff. I mean, does he even have a pulse now? Like, I'm serious. The whole thing about him having like his robot heart or whatever he had, where he didn't actually have a pulse. I don't know if that was ever rectified or if he's still walking around without a heartbeat.
I'm going to vote for walking around without a heartbeat. You have to have a heart to have a heartbeat. Come on now.
And unfortunately, what I just said is not make-believe.
No, that's a real thing.
That is a real thing. A very scary thing.
Yeah.
So his words were the fact that Putin took his capabilities in the cyber area and used it to try to influence our election. He considered it, quote, an act of war.
Well, I think that Saudi Arabia influencing American politics for quite as long as they have, and particularly the hornet's nest that they have us involved in over in the Middle East. I don't know. I think Saudi Arabia definitely wins that by a nose.
No, that doesn't count because Trump has already buddied up with Saudi Arabia. So,
and there's now a new flow of arms headed that way too. So yeah, there's a lot more of the same there. There was a lot of loud talk on the dais, presidential campaign trail, if you'll remember.
Yeah, we all heard.
We got excited for half a minute. It's like, whoa, somebody's finally talking about this. Now it's done. It's over with.
In fairness, it was exciting that somebody at least mentioned it for half a second. But unfortunately, the reality is when a politician says something real anyway, it doesn't work out.
I'd venture to guess probably within maybe a year or so, most of the footage of Trump talking on stage in a negative light about Saudi Arabia will quietly disappear from the internet. So everybody needs to go take it out on YouTube right now. Go YouTube some of that presidential election talk. Boy, it was loud, man. It was loud and proud. We were like, yes, finally, yes. And now Bush 3.0.
Yeah, he didn't carry it out all the way through, though. I will say that he shut up pretty quick. He wasn't. I don't think he was spouting any of that off by the time he had actually got the nomination, though.
Yeah. By the time he got the nomination, no, it was pretty much a lot of his major talking points that got people stirred up, and even then, it was only sparingly, and a bunch of half knowing. Well, I know something about this, but I can't talk about it right now. Yeah, you better not talk about it. They showed him the same film they did Reagan, the same film that they showed Reagan, Clinton, the Bushes. The Bushes knew all about that anyways, but they showed him the same film we saw when Kennedy spent his last moment on the street.
I don't think they had to show Reagan a film. I think they showed Reagan being John Hinckley.
Yeah, they did. They keeps it real like that.
They do that, but that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day.
Yeah, that's another show right there.
Yeah, buddy. So,
United States government's greatest hits.
Why do you think, well, we could probably talk about this for 2 hours, but why do you think that on the surface, forget the underlying issues, but just the general public, they are so going down this charge with Russia? Of course, it's being shoved down their throat. It's McCarthyism 2.0. Everything's Russia's fault. And then without evidence to back this stuff up, and yet at the same time you have somebody like Saudi Arabia where there's lots of evidence that they've done far, far worse than tried to interfere in an election by getting bots or whatever crazy stuff they come up with on news sites and social media. Again, 15 of the 19 hijackers, and we can go down the list from there and get as deep in the rabbit hole as you want to get. Nobody says a word about Saudi Arabia at all.
No. Even when they finally, had removed the redaction on the 28 pages, I mean, again, there was a collective yawn. Okay, yeah, they finally did it. Yay, Saudi Arabia's involved. We already know, whatever. Big deal. What's on TV?
Now, here's one for you. We want to talk about interfering in elections. Does anybody have concern? Why isn't it ever mentioned that Saudi Arabia gave $25 million to Hillary Clinton? Does that sound like interfering in an election? A foreign country?
Yeah. 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 Way more than Russia ever has. And again, that's what really pisses me off. Let's go ahead. Let's rewind this for a second. Let's say for a second that Russia did hack those emails. That's all Russia. Russia did hack into the DNC. They hacked Podesta. They released all of these. Let's say that Russia, it actually came down from the Russian government.
Which, by the way, there's still zero evidence of.
Okay, the zero evidence of. What we do know about the emails that were finally released in those WikiLeaks is that all of them, every single one of them, came from the source that they claimed that it came
Right.
from. So these are all true and correct. These were things that were sent back and forth to members in the State Department, DNC, so on and so forth. Right?
Yeah. Well, yes, they certainly were real. Yes.
Okay. So all of that being said, we finally got to see how our government that we pay for, our hard-earned tax dollars pay for, the people that we entrust and the people that we put in power. They're supposed to be, what wasn't the Obama administration supposed to be the most transparent administration of all time? Remember when all of that came about and he got up on the stage and made his little speech and probably even did the little Bill Clinton thing with his tongue or with his not his tongue, his thumb, Freudian slip. But it's I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so we finally got to learn the truth. Exactly, and explain to me exactly by us learning the truth how that was rigging the election one way or the other. Was a vote rigged? Was anybody claiming that they actually went in and rigged votes and cast some votes for made sure it swung toward Trump's favor? And this is this is still supposing that this is actually all of this rhetoric and all this loud talk is okay. Russia did hack us. But then they kind of told the American people the truth. Now, what we don't know beyond a shadow of a doubt. I've still seen zero evidence that Russia was involved in it. But I sure am glad that somebody told us the truth for once. Right. And so by telling us the truth, that somehow influenced the election. I would prefer to know the truth before I went cast my vote, wouldn't you? That's if I voted.
Certainly.
In fact, if that was actually the case, I probably might start voting again.
Well, not with the candidates presented to us, unfortunately.
Well, no. I mean, but if I actually had a real, honest to God, true candidate that was going to be open and transparent, I'd at least consider them for a half a second, even if they were a terrible person. Hey, you may think I'm a terrible person, but I'm going to do every single bit of this in the open daylight, and then you can tell me how you think about it 4 years. I wish somebody would actually do that. That's never going to happen.
I think Trump's doing that to a degree. He's telling people the terrible stuff he's doing. He's not ashamed about.
But there's a major cognitive dissonance in that one.
Certainly there unquestionably is. But he definitely brags about a lot of the bad stuff he wants.
Oh yeah. I mean, both middle fingers up. Yeah. So I did it. So what?
Yeah. I mean, I'll give him that. But at the same time, people want to go down this witch hunt with him. And they want to find all these problems that don't exist for whatever reason.
There's so many other problems that you can focus on that do exist, like what I just talked about a moment ago, by us pretty much doubling down with our arms that we're now, doling back out to Saudi Arabia, just like good old times, friends.
They're pouring troops in the Middle East right now. They're pouring.
Absolutely, talking about another 5,000 in Afghanistan. I mean, come on, man, what do we really need that for?
I mean, it seems like every single day it's an announcement of another deployment. I know today that there was, they're dropping 300 paratroopers down in Iraq. We just got done seeing almost 250, whatever the number was, of civilians got killed in Mosul by the United States. And even the Pentagon's coming out and goes, well, I guess it seems like we probably did that. But, you never know how it happened. We could have been an act. We don't know. You know how they are. It's all deflection. But even they're saying, looks like that could have happened. Sorry, guys. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that stuff. They're still upset and concerned and worried about these make-believe issues. And the question that I have is why are people falling for it? Now, the venom is being spewed big time out of certain demographics of the right and the left with that whole narrative, unquestionably. There's a reporter, and I don't know if you know her name. She is a former member of Parliament. Her name is Louise Minch. I hate to even bring her name up to give her any more recognition than she already has, because she should.
We talk about David Cameron on this show a lot. We can throw her a bone.
Well, this is completely different. David Cameron was a world leader, and he was what he was, and everybody knew who he was. This person, that was different.
Oh, no, I won't even say it. I was going to say it. It almost slipped out, but I didn't say it. It rhymes with pig trucker.
Yeah. It's that, but that's a hilarious story, and
that's world history, man. Tell me I don't know my world history.
That is sadly.
I know what David Cameron did to that pig.
That is sadly world history, unfortunately. But this lady, people in lab coats should come check on her and make sure she's all right. She is spewing the most nonsensical, crazy conspiracy theories I have ever heard come out of anybody's mouth. They're all about Russia. They've just had her have some write-up in the New York Times. She's being praised right now as being so insightful. Among the many crazy things she has said, she said that Vladimir Putin orchestrated the assassination of Andrew Breitbart so Steve Bannon could take over Breitbart.
What?
Dude, I'm telling you, she's saying some crazy stuff.
And people have actually given weight to that?
Yes, people listen to her.
Wow.
I have no idea why anybody listens to her. And she just lives on Twitter. And she's so smug. Nothing she says is true. Not any of it. There's nothing to back it up. And she's saying that Trump and all these people, they're clearly going to jail. It's all going to happen because of their Russian ties. They're all in bed with Russia. The truth of it is, I believe that she is probably, and I know this gets thrown around a lot, and oh yeah, they're this and they're that. She's probably an operative, seriously, because she's first off the notoriety she's getting. Second off, the crazy stuff that she's saying and the notoriety she's getting. And she's clearly just trying to drive people down this road of distraction. Can
you imagine if the tables are turned and over in Russia right now, there's some people talking about, so-and-so Russian politician or so-and-so Russian whoever being involved with having ties to American business and American banks and so on and so forth, and all of the the rhetoric. Just flip it around and imagine it's us and we're actually the bad guys, which is that way in a lot of places in the world. And you can't really blame them when you see, in some places, not Russia, let's hope not anyways, but, places like Syria and Iraq where you look up in the skies and you see American planes and there could be a bomb that drops on your head from one of those planes. Yeah, you'd probably get sore about that, wouldn't you?
Well,
if we looked up in the sky. Now, if I looked up in the sky and I saw a Russian plane and it had bombed my neighbor's house, yeah, I'd have feelings about it. I definitely would. But Russia has not done anything to aggress the United States whatsoever.
Well, it depends. See, there you go again, because it depends on who you're talking to. Because there's people that are convinced of it. And you have to remember, what have I been repeating on
the Russian plane that shot at American tanks, where did that happen at again?
Well,
where are we in open battlefield war with Russia? When has Russia came and attacked one of our embassies or something like that? No. I mean, Russia's definitely doing what we're doing as far as establishing a foothold in the international community.
They are. They're doing it right now with Libya too. They're eyeing Libya. They're looking to benefit from the chaos of everything that's going on in Libya and pick up the pieces there. Well, of course, but that's the whole Middle East, isn't it? But I don't think that if Gaddafi was there, that Russia would just marched in. The vacuum was created by the United States doing what they did. And
to be fair, and again, this depends on which way you want to spin this. I mean, last time I checked, Libya is a lot closer to Russia than we are. It makes sense to be friendly with your neighbors. I just know that from, life.
Look, that's true, but here's the thing. I don't think that Russia is some saintly nation at all. I think Putin is a thug like most every other world leader. I don't think he's out there trying to save the world. But at the same time, I don't think that Russia or Putin are interfering in world geopolitical affairs to the degree that the United States has for the past ever how many years. And
particularly now more than ever.
Right. It's everybody's turning this into a battle between Hulk Hogan and Nikolai Volkov. This is the Russians. It's the Russians against the Americans. Pick a side. You're either with us or you're with them. Sorry, that's not how this works. That's how the media and that's how the politicians want to paint this picture. That's how they've always painted this picture. And then they guilt people into going along with this garbage because they're like, well, we don't want to be the bad guys. We don't want to be the bad guys because they paint it as it's either this way or it's that way. And if you're not with us, then you're a bad guy. And people are like, well, I'm not a bad guy. I don't want to be a bad guy. Unfortunately, that's not the reality. That's the propaganda, and people buy into that propaganda. But that's not the true nature of what's going on in the world. And sometimes everybody can be a little bit wrong, and some people can be a whole lot of wrong. Nobody wants to look in the mirror and face any of this. We talk about how we're promoting freedom around the world. We have zero privacy in this country. Zero. Every electronic communication that you have is being surveilled in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if you saw the video going around the past couple of days on social media about a kid getting felt up pretty aggressively at TSA at the airport. Just, it's not a fun video to watch. And we're the ones supposedly promoting freedom, and you're saying, well, that's okay that we do that because you got to stay safe, right? You got to stay safe. You can't get on your high horse about how you're going to go bomb and promote freedom around the world when our freedoms are being eroded right in front of our faces. Now, is it true that we have more freedom than some countries? It absolutely is. But are we the country that the politicians and the media advertise? We are absolutely not that country at all, any way, shape, or form. But again, people buy into the propaganda because they don't want to be the problem. They don't want to be the bad guy. And so they don't see what's going on right in front of them. Trump is a different thing because there's so many people that are against Trump that it's perceived as it's cool to be against Trump. Like it was cool to be against George W. Bush. You couldn't be against Obama and be cool, but you could be against Bush and be cool. Ironically, those same people all now like him for some bizarre reason. I don't know why.
Well, they like Dick Cheney too. So I mean, Dick and George are kind of a package deal.
Yeah. Well, you figure that I can understand people liking Bush before I can understand liking Cheney, just because I think there is probably a lot of truth in the fact that poor old Debbie probably didn't know a lot what was going on. Dick Cheney, I can't say that about. I think, Dick Cheney is Darth Vader, and he was doing who knows what, knew all about it, and was a very, very, very intelligent man, but that doesn't make him a very moral or good man. And I think he was doing a lot of nefarious, evil stuff. And it's very, very feasible that Bush wasn't aware of any of it. Now, he may have been. He may have just been playing stupid for the camera. But, there's an argument to be made on both sides with him. But vitriol was spewed in his direction. They're just coming after him for years and years and years, and now they like him just because Trump's in office, of course.
Well, even Clinton went through that. If you think about it,
I don't
Bill
think
Clinton.
it was ever cool to dislike Bill Clinton, though.
Down toward the end of his, he if you remember, at the end of his term back in the late 90s, when he got impeached, he was the whole topic of Bill Clinton was a pretty hot button issue with a lot of folks. And that's probably the closest that I can remember in my lifetime as far as a political division between the left and the right was in that era, not during the whole Clinton administration, just in that era around the impeachment and shortly before he left office.
He didn't do himself any favors by lying under oath. I'll say that.
Oh, no. And again, that's another topic for another day. Our listeners can go back and YouTube our interview with Juanita Broderick, and that's pretty much the extent of how I feel about Bill Clinton. But yeah, that I don't know, that just it seems like that was probably the worst that it got between the left and the right as far as the bickering and backbiting and so on and so forth until now. I've never, ever seen in my lifetime the polar opposite of Republican and Democrat. I mean, it really is just like Alabama and Auburn time up in here, dude. It's hard.
Well,
I know that was an Alabama reference. Some of y'all don't know it. You can Google it. It's a thing.
But even that being said, I don't even think it's as black and white as that now, because you're seeing the Democratic Party just in absolute shambles. You've got the complete division of the establishment Hillary side of things, and you've got the Bernie side of things. You've seen the division in the rift in the DNC. I heard earlier today that they're asking everybody at the DNC to resign. They can kind of clean house. Will that actually happen? I do not think so. I don't.
Podesta's already gone, correct?
Yeah, and they've already got a new head of the DNC too. But I just don't think that they're going to completely clean that ship up. They're never going to let go of their hold on some level. I just don't see it happen, and I think they're grooming Chelsea Clinton to run for Congress. I know there's a bunch of rumors going on about Hillary, and of course they're saying she's going to run in 2020, which I don't think that'll happen. And they're saying she could run for mayor of New York. That may or may not happen. I wouldn't bet on it.
I think that's a better fit for her, really. On a grand scheme of things, I don't know that she can survive another presidential election, particularly if she's got to go back up in a rematch versus our current president.
Not against him. She couldn't against him.
No, it's just you're gonna have to just go ahead and wait this 8 years out. I think. I don't know. It really depends on public perception at that point and what he's able to get accomplished.
She's not a good enough politician. She should have been able to beat him the first time. She couldn't. She's not Bill. She's not.
Did it and cheated while she did it. As far as what happened between her and Bernie in the DNC.
Oh yeah, unquestionably she cheated.
She cheated and still lost. Went through all of that trouble and still lost. All of that money that those people doled out, still lost. Mm-hmm. Goldman Sachs still won though. They're all right.
Well, he didn't. I will say that Trump didn't take a lot of money from that. But with that being said, it must be noted, very, very, very importantly, that when Trump said that, we're going to drain the swamp, we're going to get rid of all this stuff, I believe the number is 6 people from Goldman Sachs are now in his administration. So, or at some point had worked with Goldman Sachs. And I'm not talking about just like some little small-time trader either. I'm talking about was a higher up at Goldman Sachs. I think 6 people, is the number. Yeah, so it's not like he drained anything. If anything,
no, he didn't. He duped everybody. I mean, and again, that's what we're seeing right now. I mean, look at this healthcare package. Come on, man, really?
Well,
That's the best you come up with.
I tell you what, this is my own theory. We'll see how it plays out. But I believe, and I think I may have said it on the show before. You don't have to tell me if I have. I know I've said it to people off air. But I just feel like that whole healthcare package, that whole deal, it's a setup to get Paul Ryan out. And I tell you why I think this. First off, it was clearly terrible. Unquestionably, it was just horrific. Especially if you've railed so hard against Obamacare. Like, I don't know how you can take this huge stand and wave the banner against Obamacare and then present this as the alternative when it truly is just a little bit toned down version of the exact same thing. First off, Trump did not want his name attached to it. He wanted Paul Ryan's name attached to it. Now, of course, there's some Democrats you'll see, oh, it's Trump care. But for the most part, you see it referred to as Ryan care. And that's the moniker that they wanted on it. Secondly, you had Rand Paul, who was out there just bashing the thing and drew the line in the sand that this wasn't going to happen. This is just a piece of junk legislation. And you had Trump tweeting directly at Rand saying that we're going to get it together, we're going to work. So, and Rand said it too, that him and Trump had been in communication, and Trump said, we're going to negotiate, we're going to work together on this. The bill that they had when they were trying to shove it through did not reflect a negotiation. It reflected, basically Obamacare light, as many of them referred to it. The last and biggest thing to me was, other than them sending Paul Ryan out there as the one to defend this thing and him having his face on TV as the one promoting it, Breitbart. Now, obviously, the Trump administration and Breitbart are very closely related via Steve.
Closely related is a mild way of putting it these days. Some people are referring to Steve Bannon as one of the most powerful men in Washington right now.
And I think it's safe to say that Breitbart can be viewed as the propaganda arm of the Trump administration.
Yep.
So, if you look at how Breitbart reported on this healthcare bill, they slammed it the entire time. They were talking about how terrible it was. This was never going to go through. Paul Ryan's an idiot. On and on and on. Now, why would Breitbart, which is Steve Bannon, which is Trump, why would that be the narrative coming out of that publication, organization, whatever you want to call it? Why would that be the narrative if this is what they're pushing so hard for? So I got the impression that this was just a let's watch Paul Ryan that set him up to crush him, that set him up for him to fail. And then you even had Trump, after it had failed, I think it was Sunday over the weekend, Trump had said, oh, no, Paul Ryan doesn't need to step down because, those rumors had started. Paul Ryan should step down because he just fouled this thing up. This is a debacle. He needs to resign. He doesn't need to be the head anymore. So anyway, you got Trump tweeting out, make sure, you got to watch Judge Jeanine on Fox. You got to watch it. And he gave the time or whatever. And the first words out of her mouth when she went on TV. Now, he doesn't sit there and say you got to go watch every show on Fox, right? That's pretty.
No, he's, it's pretty specific.
Right. He said, you got to watch it. The first words out of her mouth were, Paul Ryan needs to resign.
Ooh.
So I think this whole thing has been a ploy and a setup to get Paul Ryan out. I don't think he ever truly believed in that bill. I think he's playing political chess, which I have stated to people over and over and over who still for some reason refuse to accept it, that he is politically a genius. President, that's a different story. That's a different thing. Leader, different story, different thing. We're talking politician. And I think it was a political chess move to get Ryan out. That's how I view it. Maybe I'm wrong, and will they get him out? I don't know. And it may just be step one in a phase of things that they push to drive him out. But I totally believe that they want Paul Ryan out of there. And I think they're going to offer him up as a martyr for something at some point.
So basically what you're saying is that in the scale of being one of the greatest politicians in the world, Bill Clinton is probably what Wilt Chamberlain, and Donald Trump is Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I would say something like that. And again, I think to like a true great politician, I think is probably just a terrible person, because there's a lot of deception that goes into that and a lot of lying that goes into being a great politician. Bill Clinton.
A lot of people said the same thing about Churchill, as far as, in his private life and what, the many, many things that are quoted that he said over the years every day.
I don't think that I personally don't see anything that tells me that Bill Clinton in his life was anything short of a scumbag. Until Trump came along and did what he did over the past 12 months, 15 months. Bill Clinton was easily, I think, the greatest politician I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
That didn't make him a great person at all.
Not by any stretch of the imagination, no.
Fantastic politician. And such a politician, he was such a good politician that his wife just almost became president. And she's a terrible politician. That's how good of a politician he was. We saw the same thing in the state of Alabama. And another person that you can, look at more and go, don't know about you, was George Wallace. George Wallace was a fantastic politician. Now, did that mean was able to
reverse a position such as his blatant racism on the campaign trail, like nobody's business. That was about as masterful as you can get, because a lot of your old Southern Democrats, they, when things started to integrate and change started happening, they were still pretty resolute and still stood pretty firm on it, like Strom Thurmond, for instance. Old Dixiecrat.
And you saw Lurleen Wallace became governor of the state of Alabama, which was his wife.
And she was essentially a secretary when she was governor for the state of Alabama for half a minute.
Right. So, we see, I think there's definitely a correlation between people that don't seem like very good human beings.
Of course, now bear in mind, we're probably going to piss off a lot of left-wing feminists when we have this conversation as far as, she was a great woman anyways, and blah, blah, this and this, that, and the other. But come on, let's call it what it is. Really.
Well, I'm assuming most of those people have never heard of Lurleen Wallace and need to look at it. I mean, she did a few good things that I know, and she definitely had her hand in the whole community.
She was a great governor. She was a great governor because pretty much she kind of wasn't really governor,
Right.
She was kind of a token governor, if you want to get down to it.
But anyway, I'm not going to get into all that. But the point being, Hillary Clinton was just a bad politician, and she got beat by
a bad politician.
She's terrible. The Democrats hadn't had any good politicians in a while, and the Republicans really hadn't either, as far as just political figures. Ted Cruz comes across like he's Jim Jones. He doesn't come across like he's Ronald Reagan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that guy, he creeps me out so bad. He really does. Rubio, you kind of knew where Rubio was coming from.
Rubio was too weaselly.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to bend over around that one.
Cory Booker, I think, if they ran him in 2020, which I don't think they will, because I don't think they want to waste him off the bench, because I think they feel like they could probably get him as president in 2024 if we're even around that long. I hate to say that.
I hope we make it to 2040 because I want to see Catch Me Outside Girl win the nomination. That's going to be awesome.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're going to have by 2040, we'll probably be seeing Chelsea and Ivanka run against each other, because why not?
I think the Republicans and Democrats need to just go ahead and completely just sell completely out and go ahead, instead of being Republicans and Democrats, be like, some kind of corporate logo. Like Mountain Dew and Pepsi or something. No, Mountain Dew and Pepsi are the same company. Mountain Dew and what was the Bella Yellow? Yeah,
they should. I mean, they already are anyway. But they might as well just get like official sponsors and just talk about the electrolytes.
Yeah, the Republican Party sponsored by Ford.
Yeah, I mean, and this is how far gone.
No. Bass Pro Shops.
That would be great.
Yeah, the Republican Party and Bass Pro Shops. I mean, really, that pretty much is kind of a hand-in-hand thing. You go to the Bass Pro Shop after you go to church.
I know that it's so negative, and it's it is what it is. But I feel like we're down a hole that we're not going to be able to come out of. I think it's so bad on both ends. It's so bad on both sides. The people that want to protest Trump, please protest Trump, but know what you're talking about when you do it. Go after something factual. Go after something he's really doing that's not good. Foreign policy. Look at what's happening in the Middle East right now. Look at what's going on with foreign policy. Start there. You could go on forever.
He opened the Keystone Pipeline back up. That's another good one as well.
He did.
With both middle fingers up, I might add.
There's oil right now in the Dakota Access Pipeline. There's oil in it. I don't know if it officially has kicked off, but it's like either it's already working or it's about to begin, but there's actually already oil in it. It's ready to go. Like, it's momentary that it's going to happen if it hasn't already started running. He just basically did that with the sign of a pen.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up. I saw that movie the other day. There Will Be Blood. Oh man, that's an amazing movie.
Might as well talk about that, because this is where we're at. It's powerful interests. Nobody's paying attention to everything. Everybody's allowing themselves to be distracted by everything that moves. No matter what side you're on, you've been distracted, whether it's Trump, you just believe everything that comes out of his mouth, or it's the Democrats and you're just everything that Nancy Pelosi says. It's like, we've got to get away from these teams. These teams have destroyed what people believe of as the United States of America. Destroyed it. And it's just everybody at each other's throats. They want people bickering. They want this division. As long as there is this division, and they're controlling the division because they're controlling the narrative and they're telling you what to be upset about, then you're being distracted from what's actually happening, than what's actually going on. They are taking us down a path of world war right now. And why? For what? You have Dick Cheney saying something once again without any evidence, because Dick Cheney's never done that before, and saying, oh, it's an act of war with this whole Russia stuff. What happened the last time we put our faith in Dick Cheney and what he had to say? How did that work out for anybody? Shannon?
Not me.
Did that work out great for people? Did trusting Dick Cheney, was that really a smart move on our behalf?
I want to go ahead and go with a popular answer and say no.
Is it the popular answer anymore? I don't know what the popular answer is. You have to, I guess, look at Wolf Blitzer's latest breaking news to find out what you're supposed to believe in today. What's Jake Tapper reporting of what the facts are? It's just controlling the division. It's controlling the division. There is
How
no
much would it
news.
take? How much would it take for us to convince Ryan Butcher to wear a gorilla suit, change his name legally to Harimbe, and run for president in 2020?
We should look into it. He may win.
Man, that would be huge. Who wouldn't vote for Harimbe?
I mean, Trump's in office. Why not? Why not? It may happen.
These nuts would have probably showed up probably all the way to the big dance if D's nuts was actually like of age and like could actually legally run for president.
I wonder, and this is a real question, if they would have had just this random joke candidate, D's nuts, on the ballot in place of Gary Johnson, who was a real joke candidate.
Oh man, he would have killed. He would have, or she would have killed Gary Johnson.
But I wonder if what the polling would, like seriously, like if what the polling would have been against Trump and Hillary and a complete joke candidate, D's nuts. Like
I think it probably would have been the strongest third or independent party showing ever.
Yeah,
in
that's
the history of a presidential election ever.
Like that sounds crazy, but yeah, I think so too.
Because that's part of the reason that Trump got elected. There are people that actually went out and cast a vote for Trump strictly as a troll.
People voted
just to throw a middle finger up to the left.
Look, what repeatedly he was the Molotov cocktail candidate, man. It was just I'm tired of this. Whatever.
But who can't get behind these nuts though? I mean, seriously.
But I think it was people just frustrated. It was people who don't care. Again, half the country didn't even go vote because it was the two worst candidates that have been presented to the American people maybe ever. And we had John Kerry run against George Bush in 2004. So we've had some pretty bad candidates run against each other. And
Michael Dukakis.
Yeah, think about that. Dukakis against H.W. Bush in what, 88?
That was a showdown.
Yeah, the ex-CIA director against Michael Dukakis.
And he lived to tell about it.
He did that. But look, there's no news anymore. It's all distraction. If you don't see facts, don't believe it. Don't repeat it, more importantly. You have to see actual evidence. Just because you see somebody that's very convincing on TV or on Twitter or on Facebook or there's an article that says it. You know how much evidence that has been presented over this Russia stuff and said there's an article about it. That's not evidence. That's you got somebody to write an article and they posted it and then they're going, see, we told you. We told you. It's like you just got your friends at the Washington Post to write an article. That's not evidence at all. There's no real news anymore. It's just confirmation bias. Believe what you want because you already believe it. People have to get over that. They've got to look at it for what it is. There is a truth out there, but I don't think people want to look at that one straight in the face because it's hard to look at. It's not a pretty sight when you start looking at the truth of how mismanaged the U.S. government has been over the past decades. And, of course, they want to blame Trump for how bad it is, or you want to blame Obama for how bad it is, or you want to blame, I guess nobody's blaming Bush anymore. But they did blame Bush for a long time. And it's not this one person's fault or that one person's fault. It's everybody's fault for not paying attention for all these years. For Shannon, I am SM Gibson. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Join Nick tomorrow at UCY.tv. Anti-Media out.
I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.